childhood obesity is spiraling out of control. 21% of kids in the USA are now obese.
The U.S. has seen a massive rise in childhood obesity rates. More than 1 in 5 American children are obese. That is up from 1 in 20 back in the 1970s.
1 in 5 kids. That stat actually blew my mind. As a former obese child, I was usually one of 2 fat kids in my class. Everyone else was thin because kids don't usually struggle with their weight. But that is clearly not the case today. And while childhood obesity is a big problem, it's also a symptom of other problems. Our food environment flooded with ultra-processed foods, our modern sedentary iPad lifestyle, and the billions of marketing dollars targeting kids. There are many potential solutions to the problem of obesity, but for now, a new approach is being taken, and that approach is GLP-1s for kids.
Doctor, we tried to have Eric eat right and exercise, but it just doesn't seem to work for him.
Have you heard of semaglutides?
Like Ozempic and Wegovy, and wouldn't be surprised if kids start to take those.
Yeah.
From the Wall Street Journal, when diets don't work, parents turn to Wegovy for elementary school kids. Now, obviously, I'm all for the fight against childhood obesity. Unlike some people we've talked about on this channel before.
The best way to win the war against fat is to give up the fight.
But I've been thinking about this whole issue a lot, and I have a lot to say. So I wanted to kind of open up the conversation about this new approach to obesity. Today we're discussing GLP-1 kids, starting with 9-year-old twin brothers named Aiden and Caden. But before we get into it, a quick message from today's sponsor. Chime, America's #1 choice for banking, who's giving you a $350 bonus. We've all got money just sitting in an account. A little cushion, whatever's left after paying the bills. We just leave it there until we need it. Out of sight, out of mind. But what you don't see is that it's just sitting there, doing nothing for you. A regular savings account pays you almost nothing. We're talking about 0.38% APY. That's your money lying on the couch all day, getting up once in a while to go to the fridge, year after year, and that's where Chime changes things. Chime's high-yield savings account earns 3.75% APY. That's 9 times the national average. Now it's like your money's at the gym, getting stronger, making gains, actually growing. I mean, just as an example, if you had $10,000 saved with Chime, you'd earn $382 a year just for having it sit in a better place. Your funds are FDIC insured through Chime's bank partners, so your money's secure. And the Chime Card gives you 5% cash back in a category you pick. Groceries, gas, travel, whatever you already spend the most on. You can choose a new category every month, so you're in control to maximize the cash back you earn. You get all these perks with no monthly fees or minimum balance requirements. It's time to get your money off the couch and start growing your savings and getting cash back with Chime. Right now, if you open a new Chime checking account through the link below, you can get up to a $350 bonus. Head to the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get started. It only takes a few minutes to sign up, and make sure you go through my link to get the bonus. Thanks to Chime for sponsoring today's video. Kids as young as 6 are being given weight loss drugs as a way to curb obesity before it gets too late. So the story opens up with these 2 twin adopted brothers named Aiden and Caden, who are getting injected with a GLP-1 while watching cartoons. When I first heard this, I think my jaw hit the floor. It's so dystopian. And honestly, all I could think to myself was, how did we get here? If I'm totally honest, my complete knee-jerk reaction to the concept of children plus Ozempic is a big hell no. It just seems completely viscerally wrong. Now, I am pro GLP-1s in general. I think they're an amazing feat of modern science. I think that the data suggests there isn't a lot of reason to be concerned, from my opinion. And in general, I'm happy that there is a tool to potentially help with the obesity epidemic. I really am. However, that's for adults. For kids, we're talking about a completely different ballgame here. My mind automatically fills with Aiden and Caden stuffing themselves with sugary cereal, Pop-Tarts, Dino Nuggies, and Smiley Fries while sitting in front of the TV, like I used to do. And then to think that to combat this, these kids are just going to be shot up with a medication at such a young age. Like, kids plus medication, it's the type of thing you hope your kid never has to take a medication, right? Let alone starting a kid on a medication that they'll need for life due to a completely preventable thing like childhood obesity, a thing that didn't even exist really in kids 50 years ago. But guess what? If you're feeling a little bit mad right now, well, that's because you just got rage baited. And Not by me, by the Wall Street Journal, so don't be mad at me. It was all a setup to trigger you about potentially bad parenting, when in reality, Aiden and Caden are actually struggling with a metabolic disorder. They have this rare metabolic issue that's led to extreme obesity at a young age. The boys were about 4 years old when they started rapidly gaining weight. Sometimes they would eat so much in one sitting that they would become sick. They were so hungry at bedtime that they would cry. The family worked with their pediatrician and nutritionist and started limiting portion sizes and following a stricter diet. They also enrolled the boys in karate classes to try and help them lose weight. However, their BMI continued to climb. So it actually wasn't until the family got the twins into this kids' local obesity management program that they learned about this. But there they were tested, and it was discovered that they had this genetic mutation that makes them extremely hungry and therefore can lead to obesity. Now, I feel like every few years you'll see a little Michelin baby like this. So when you see this, usually these kids have an extreme example of the types of genetic mutations that can lead to extreme childhood obesity. Now, these genetic abnormalities, they exist, but they're really rare. And when someone has them, they can lead to very, very serious complications very, very fast. When they were 7, their A1C, a measure of blood sugar, was elevated. They also had signs of liver dysfunction and worrisome cholesterol findings, according to the report. They were still moving up to the chart to the point that it was alarming, Wright told the Journal, noting the boys' weight was affecting their ability to run and play. The article also said that these kids were lifting weights with their parents 3 times a week. They go on big family walks all the time. Their parents only let them have ice cream once a week and more. It really seemed like the parents were doing everything they could to try to manage their kids' extreme hunger and obesity. And yet these kids are already struggling with the type of obesity you might see in someone who is 45 years old and had a slew of bad habits their whole life. But as I mentioned, these genetic abnormalities, they only explain a very small percentage of the now 21% of American kids struggling with childhood obesity. Pediatric obesity doctors today are seeing kids younger than ever before develop obesity. They're seeing more severe cases, and they're dealing with more obesity-related comorbidities. And as we talked about several months ago, there was this insane UNICEF report that came out describing the fact that this is not just happening here at home, it's now taking over the world. In that video, we covered that even kids in Nigeria are now struggling with childhood obesity. So yeah, things are feeling a little bit bleak. I mean, for years, kids did not have to worry about most of the, except for in rare cases, of course, most of the diseases that typically come with adulthood, with a life that's been lived. And now that's just not true. I mean, look at this. High blood pressure rates in children nearly doubled in 20 years, Global Review finds. High blood pressure used to be something that we would associate almost exclusively with middle-aged adults. This actually sounds like satire. But here's another fun headline. Study finds children in US became increasingly unhealthy over past 17 years. It really all does beg the question, what the hell is going on here and how do we make it stop? But, it also makes it more clear why some doctors might be looking at a patient that comes into their office and be willing to put them on a GLP-1, even if the knee-jerk reaction is that it feels wrong to do this, to put a kid on an obesity medication. You hear these stats, you hear Aiden and Caden's story, and personally, I get it. And my point with all this is, this stuff is super complicated. It is not black and white. Even if it feels like it is, it's not black and white. By prescribing GLP-1 medications early, doctors say they aim to prevent lifelong obesity and complications such as type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, which are showing up in teens and even younger children. Doctors prescribing the drugs off-label say the risks of obesity complications for some patients are too serious not to try a treatment that can be so effective. I see kids who have developed type 2 diabetes at 10, 11 years old, said Dr. Jessica Riley. They need help so desperately. Yeah, so if it hasn't been clear, this drug actually hasn't been approved by the FDA for kids this young. But some doctors, based on their experience, are still thinking that it's worth the risk to put them on this medication with no data. And it's worth it to them because the alternative is letting them grow up with obesity from that young age. Because here's the extra f***ed up layer regarding childhood obesity specifically. I think it's fair to say that it is way more dangerous than adult onset obesity, because being obese as a child means your likelihood of escape is way, way lower. I just read a paper the other day about toddlers with severe obesity, so kids between 2 to 4, with severe obesity. And it's said there plain as day. It is critical to note that the development of severe obesity this early in life is nearly irreversible. And the prognosis for kids a bit older than that is a little bit better, but not by much. And on top of it, it massively increases these kids' risk for early death, prediabetes, diabetes, high blood pressure, and something called dyslipidemia. And on top of it, behaviorally, we know that the way you eat as a child really sets the stage habits-wise for the rest of your life. So yeah, personally, despite, my dramatic intro to this video and stuff, I can really see this side of it. Like, yeah, of course, some doctors are thinking that the unknown risk of the GLP-1s is better than the known risk of childhood obesity. But at the same time, you can't understate the risk of putting these kids on this drug when there is no data available yet. These drugs aren't yet approved for obesity in patients this young, and without further studies, it isn't certain that young children can safely use the medications for weight loss without compromising a critical period of growth for their bones and brain. We do not have enough evidence to safely prescribe under 12 at this point, Dr. Sarah Hampel told the Journal. I think that potential is there for positive impact, but there are not enough studies yet. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about kids, not adults. They're developing their bones, their brains, their hormones, their appetite, everything. Who really knows what the potential effects could be injecting a drug that works on both your brain and your body? Plus, I mean, there is also the issue of putting these kids on these GLP-1s who are now eating less of the wrong foods. So you're going to have some kids who are eating virtually an entirely junk food diet and almost reliant on some volume in order to get any sort of nutrition, now eating way less of that diet. Which, is that going to be worse, right? Like, are we going to see 12-year-olds with like osteoporosis next? There are just so many unknowns and concerns. It has got to be such a hard and uncomfortable choice for the doctors faced with making it. Do I let the children I'm caring for inevitably become sicker through obesity, or do I give them this thing that could potentially impact them in ways we don't even fully understand? For me, I can see both sides. I think both arguments are so strong. It's just, I don't know. I'm glad I'm not a doctor. I'm curious what you guys think though. I feel like there's going to be a lot of really strong opinions on this. But like I said, I don't know. For me personally, I can see both sides. But I would like to talk about the way bigger issue here that neither of these articles even mentioned. And it's that GLP-1s are not going to end the childhood obesity epidemic. They can't. They're not designed to, because they don't address the root cause, which is, of course, the food. Today's kids are overeating, and they're overeating because ultra-processed junk food has become the norm in our society. It's the cheapest, it's the most convenient, it's the most aggressively marketed, it's the culture we surround children with. From junk food commercials plastering kids' channels to Paw Patrol on 5 different snack products at the grocery store. Actually, I feel like that's an important thing to bring up. Have you noticed that snacking for kids has like completely exploded? Snack packs, dessert yogurts, crackers and chips, fruit snacks, cookies, juice drinks, and don't get me started on those Lil Bites. Those piss me the hell off. Every time I see them, I don't know what it is about them. I just don't like them.
We start our day smiling together with Entenmann's Little Bites muffins.
Yummy!
Little Bites are made with real ingredients like real blueberries and real bananas.
As a society, we just let these companies go open season on these kids. And then we go, I wonder why there's childhood obesity. It's almost like their little bodies can't handle food that's been literally designed to override their hunger signals and make them eat more. Think about it. 63% of American children will drink at least one soda today. At least one. On what planet does a child need a soda any day, or even ever at all? Like, I don't know. I feel like for me, giving a kid a treat, like a cookie that you bake them or something, is a part of life. I don't think that like being like super crazy about it makes sense. But when we're talking about giving a kid a soda or similar sugary beverage on any given day, like, how did this happen? Yet that's just normal to us. So many of us don't even question it because it's just marketed to us as what we do now. If you wanted a soda back in the day, I'm pretty sure that you and your whole family had to like go to a soda shop. You had to go get one as like an excursion. Same with fast food. It was like a treat. But now for a lot of households, it's a multi-day a week thing. And that's just how it is. Like, given this situation, of course we have obesity. And if we don't address this, if we don't change the way we eat, are we really ever going to have healthier kids? even if GLP-1s completely change the childhood obesity epidemic, which would be amazing. That's the ideal scenario. Wouldn't new problems just pop up in its place unless we address the root cause? Like, realistically, we'll probably just have skinny yet unhealthy children, no? The root cause is an excessive diet of nutritionally poor, ultra-processed foods and a culture that makes them the preferred option. Without addressing this, why would we assume that anything would get better? Getting the medication off-label has helped Aiden and Caden make healthier habits like snacking less and has also given them more energy. Their parents hope they won't be on the drug for more than a few years. They can learn to manage themselves, the exercise, the healthy habits, read their bodies properly, Wright said. The goal is for them to learn, as they grow, that this is going to be their life. It says that Aiden's BMI dropped like 7 percentage points and Caden's dropped 5, which is amazing. Remember, they were obese at age 4, making their obesity extra difficult to manage. If it turns out they're safe and GLP-1s can start helping kids today, that's the best thing ever. And if the drug can help them build healthy habits through that critical learning period, that is the ideal outcome. But realistically, we actually need nothing short of a cultural revolution surrounding food. Until we get that, it's probably just an expensive band-aid. Not denying it can help in the short term, but things still have to change. And if we're serious about protecting kids, we can't just let big food and big pharma continue to profit while people pay the price on both ends. I feel like we have to use the fact that very young children are being considered for GLP-1s as a huge wake-up call. We need to step it up. It might sound crazy or utopian or something, but I think that there could be a food revolution, a cultural revolution in America regarding this stuff. I mean, a big part of the reason a lot of the countries who aren't fat and don't have fat kids is because they have a strong food culture that everyone participates in that says, no, I don't fill my kid's lunch pail full of treats. Why would I do that? Yet here in our culture, it's still odd if you think like that. It's considered extreme. This is just what we do here, likely because the food companies have wriggled their way into our culture starting when you were a kid. But yeah, I feel like the only thing we can really do as the adults of society is change our own behavior. Starting with not purchasing products from companies who openly claim to be trying to override your hunger signals with their technology. Like, why do we accept that as normal and then continue to buy their products? It actually doesn't make sense. We also need to find a way to make healthy food so convenient and cheap that it becomes our new norm. And it sounds small, but if we demand of ourselves a healthier lifestyle, the environment will change. These companies will be forced to change. The more adults that reject the current way of doing things when it comes to food, the closer we are to solving childhood obesity. It might sound crazy, but what we can do is change ourselves and what we tolerate. Because the alternative is injecting kids with a $500 a month medication that they need for life straight out of the womb so they can hopefully grow up to be able to moderate how much money they spend on junk food every month. So yeah, in my opinion, even if GLP-1s turn out to be an amazing tool for kids struggling with extreme obesity, it's not enough. Success isn't getting as many kids as possible on a GLP-1. Success is creating a culture where kids don't need these medications in the first place. And the only people who can do that is us. Anyway, thank you for listening to my rant. Please let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know if I was off base. Not my usual type of video, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.